Welcome to your reading for September 2025. This is Artemis Oracle and Tarot, a space for those walking the moonlit path. Seekers looking to explore and integrate the divine masculine in ways that feel authentic, embodied, and whole. This work centers on masculinity, but it's not exclusive to men. Masculinity lives in all of us, regardless of our gender, orientation, or identity. Many of us carry unconscious, wounded, or toxic expressions of masculinity, and this space is here to offer guidance and reflection so we can meet that energy with openness and sincerity. So whether you're male, female, non-binary, or something beautifully in between, you are welcome here, and this is exactly where you're meant to be. My name is Adrian, or you can call me Ade, the creator of Artemis Tarot and Artemis Oracle decks, which you'll see today. These decks came about out of my own dark night journey as a gay man who felt spiritually stuck and disconnected from divinity after painful early experiences with religion. I learned that whether something is scientifically real or not is almost besides the point, because if we experience as real, it has power. It can hinder us or it can help. So I chose to change my relationship to spirituality into something that actually helps. Hi Aquarius, and welcome to your September reading. This is Artemis Oracle and Tarot, place for those taking the moonlight path, and I hope this reading finds you well. Today we'll be doing a short oracle card spread, a traditional kind of 3-card past, present, and future, and then following that we will do a slightly longer tarot spread using a method that I kind of designed earlier this year, which I'll explain a little bit more about when we get to it. But just to start, we'll just call in spirit, and I'll light some incense as well. I've got this one called the Moon today, which I thought was nice. And without any further delays, let's jump into your reading. So just a reminder, all of the archetypes from today's reading, if you want to learn more about them, you can read the full profiles on my website, which is artemispalimpsest.com, and the link to that is in the video description below. And you can find all 44 of the Artemis Oracle Divine Masculine archetype profiles in there, as well as what the mission of all of this is, and also links to the store to purchase the decks, either of the decks, if the artwork resonates with you. All right, so we're looking for a card for the past for our Aquarius friends. All right, you've pulled the Gnostic Demiurge card here in the past position. And the Gnostic Demiurge, firstly, might help to just give a brief explanation of what Gnosticism is. So Gnosticism was an early offshoot of Christianity, who had a different view and story narrative as to how this earth and universe and everything in it was created. Basically, without going through a whole theology session, which I don't have time for, their belief is that the material world and everything in it is a trap for keeping souls, which is our human souls, stuck here instead of being integrated back into the pleroma, which is kind of like heaven. And it does so by kind of tempting us with its beauty and its kind of delights and its pleasures, but ultimately it keeps us spiritually sort of immature and kind of like stuck here. And as a result, that's why the Gnostic Demiurge card can kind of represent kind of being spiritually manipulated, overly relying on sort of cold logic, and also using wisdom in a way that is self-serving and kind of gatekeeping from like letting others also benefit from that wisdom. And I think as it relates to Aquarius in particular, like, you know, we're coming into the age of Aquarius now, which is going to be, or is defined by the democratization of like technology and access to information. It's all about you know, individuality and you know, technology that is revolutionizing. So there's a lot of I guess potential for this shadow side of the Demiurge to kind of permeate the age of Aquarius if we forget the lessons of the age of Pisces before, which was kind of self-sacrificing, that connection to divinity, believing in more than what can just be sort of perceived by our senses, and the kind of like the precession of the zodiac. When we change from one age to another, it's never meant to be like entirely forgetting or releasing, you know, what was learned in the previous age. It's meant to be using discernment to take what is still of value and also to let go of that which no longer serves. And I think as it relates to the age of Pisces, there are some beautiful lessons in there that, you know, are meant to be carried forward into the age of Aquarius to ensure that where, you know, logic doesn't go without being tempered by compassion. And so I think that that kind of story is important in terms of your reading, because it kind of reflects what we're seeing here with that Gnostic Demiurge in your past card. It suggests that there may have been a point in time where you were overly analytical, or you were overly focused only on cold, hard facts. And I think this is something, it's like rhetoric that we hear all the time, especially in workplaces, like, oh, let's take the emotion out of it, or let's just look at the facts, or let's look at what's known. Like, this is all language that's kind of coded for people in privilege who have power, choosing to direct the attention where they want it to be so that they can have the most convenient sort of route. And I think that as it relates to your reading, that energy is kind of like sitting in your past. And so I'm curious to see what comes up in the current for you, because I'm getting the sense that it's something that you've overcome, or that you've identified, and you know, it's not sitting, you know, great with you. So yeah, let's see what's coming up in the current situation for Aquarius. All right. All right. So you've pulled the Aries card in your current situation, and Aries kind of is a strong indication for yes, but also it's a indication to ensure that your boundaries are like established, and you've been able to discern like where your responsibility ends, or where your influence ends, and where it becomes like someone else or something else. And also like a sense of like righteous anger in terms of fueling whatever it is that you're doing at the task at hand. And actually seeing this card makes me think that perhaps the Gnostic Demiurge showing up in your past has less to do with you and more to do with like the environment within which you may have found yourself, like in a job or in a school or in a group where the aspects of you that were softer and gentler and perhaps less mainstream, perhaps you are spiritual, perhaps you are creative, perhaps you are intuitive, were sort of like dismissed and made you feel as though they needed to be repressed in order to find acceptance within that group. And I think Aries kind of stepping forward in the current situation is kind of saying like, your heart is in the right place now. Your desire to want to live that those parts of you more authentically and out in the open is yes, the right way of going. But in order to do so, you need to protect your boundaries and also be firm about them. And that's where the fiery part comes in, like remembering how indignant you felt when you've been, made light of because you believe in spiritual things, or because you've talked about astrology and had people kind of like scoff at it. Like there's nothing silly in terms of having a belief in something that helps you grow and helps you reflect on who you are. And I think anyone who wants to make a kind of joke of that is only doing so out of kind of shadow projection themselves. So they can see that something is benefiting you and is helping you, and it triggers them because they wish that they had something similar, but they don't. All right, let's see what's coming up in the future for Aquarius. Okay, you've pulled the Merlin card here in your future. Let's see if I can get the focus. There we go. And Merlin speaks to like experimentation with failure in mind. And I say that not as like, experimenting to try to fail, but experimenting expecting to fail, because that's the whole purpose of experimentation. It's if we only ever experimented to like get something right, we'd be missing the point. It's about learning along the way and like iterating one's design and one's way of thinking. And I think all of life is kind of an experiment, right? If we're not pushing boundaries or trying to do things differently, if we're only ever doing the same thing the same way, like how much are we actually living? We're kind of just like existing. Merlin in this deck is on the pathway to mastery. So you would have noticed the image of him, like he's younger, he's got dark hair. He's kind of in his journeyman stage rather than his kind of mastery stage. And that speaks to power. It speaks to the driving kind of curiosity of youth that puts one on that pathway to mastery. And so it's very much he's finding his way. And that's not to say that he's not powerful, but he's not wizened kind of hermit energy. He's more magician energy in this deck. So that's your oracle theme this far, and we'll jump into the tarot portion of the reading next. And as I get those cards out, I'll just explain a little bit about the spread that we'll be using today. Actually, I'll talk about how I'm going to select the cards first, and then I will tell you about the spread as I'm laying the cards out. So to select the cards, I'm going to use a pendulum. And the pendulum I'm going to use, I think, is the quartz, crystal quartz, just clear crystal quartz, because crystal quartz is good for focusing on intent, or for if we need clarity. It's a really good one for kind of getting that energy of like, specificity, I suppose. And I think as it relates to kind of the themes of what we've already seen in the oracle cards, I think that might be of use for us today. So let's split the card into 4 decks. Let's split the deck into 4 piles of cards. I mean, all right. And I'll get out the clear quartz pendulum, and we're looking for anti-clockwise circles here. No. No. Yep. So we only need 6 cards for the Healed Heart spread. So I'm going to do a quick reshuffle of this final kind of little pile, and then split it into piles of 6. And get the pendulum out one last time to show us which cards want to speak to Aquarius today. No. Yep. All right, it was the second pile. So as I'm laying the cards out here, I'll explain each of the positions and also a little bit about the spread. So as I mentioned, I designed this one myself a few months ago after doing some inner child work, shadow work. And it follows the 5-pointed star of the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, which is it's a ritual magic kind of practice, which is designed to kind of help release energetic elemental kind of energies that can become lodged in the body and then sort of act as like a blockage or to behave in kind of ways that might be self-sabotaging. And I think, as it relates to kind of ritual magic, I'm just going to throw out the disclaimer here, like whether something is magical or psychological, to me is kind of beside the point. I approach all of this as kind of like allegory, but what remains kind of true is that if a person does something and they do it believing in it, and with the emotion behind it that they believe in it, the impacts of that on one's psychology and then therefore nervous system is that it's real. And so this is why things like the placebo effect work. It's why scary movies get our heart racing, not because we believe that it's true, but because our body still responds to the stimulus as though it's true, because we're invested in it, right? So I just make that point because I know that the magic stuff isn't for everyone, and so yeah, please know that when I'm talking about it, for me it's allegorical. For others it is more than that, and I think all perspectives on it are valid. And yeah, I just thought I'd like to share that with you guys. All right, so in the bottom left we have the Earth position, which signifies what's supporting you or challenging you right now. Up in the top we have Spirit element, which signifies what your higher self wants you to know. In the bottom right here we have the Fire position, which signifies how others might view you in this situation with relation to what's supporting you or challenging you. Over on the top left, which is the receptive side of the star, we have what Spirit is saying that you should be open to receiving. And on the active side of the star, which is the right side, we have the tactic that you should use or the approach that you should use. It's kind of Spirit saying, here's what to maybe consider doing about the situation. And then in the center, in the soul element, it's kind of what's in your heart right now. So that will kind of give us a general sense of how you might feel about it. So what I'll do from here is just go one by one in the direction of the clockwise direction of the LBRP, and yeah, give you a bit of a download on each of the cards and what they might mean. So in the what's supporting you or challenging you right now, you've pulled the Five of Swords in the upright, which speaks to like winning at all costs, or having a sort of like winning or triumphing or overcoming, and then sort of like feeling like it was a unnecessary kind of conflict, or like what I wanted in the end it wasn't really worth everything that was necessary in order to get what the outcome was. And I guess in the position of like what's supporting or challenging there, it might be kind of indicating that perhaps sometimes if we think more about like our desires and our values as we're engaging in something, we might avoid a lot of those kind of situations where when we're on autopilot, we kind of like jump into something and then sort of realize halfway through, like, oh God, I wish I had thought about this a little bit more. And so I think in terms of what's supporting you, it's kind of saying that you have that discernment within you and you use it. And then in terms of when it's challenging, when we're under pressure or when we're sort of like on autopilot, that discernment can sometimes fail to kick in because we're just rushing through or going through the motions. And so I think it can be about creating little trigger moments for ourselves where, you know, through mindfulness or through, you know, you could even wear a reminder, like a wristband or something, that kind of when you see it, you go, oh, that's my trigger to think like, is this, you know, something that I necessarily want to do? And I think that that could be a way of sort of helping you keep track of, you know, where you kind of dedicate your time and attention, because autopilot can send us on all sorts of wild goose chases. And Spirit agrees with me. With the Eight of Swords in what your higher self wants you to know, it's like Spirit is saying to you that like this feeling of restriction at the moment is very much like a product of your own mental energy, and perhaps even barriers that exist because you've kind of not challenged the thinking behind them, and then once you're invested, it's too late to kind of like walk away. So the Eight of Swords can kind of speak to being caught in rumination or negative thinking, those kinds of loops. And when we get caught in those kinds of loops, like there are no battles that are like we get to the end of and think, oh gee, I'm glad I did that. You know, it leaves us feeling depleted, it leaves us feeling overextended, and it leaves us feeling often like there's a sense of like unworthiness on the inside. And yeah, I think that when we start to introduce more mindfulness into how we approach situations, we can, you know, really reduce the number of things that we spread our focus over by, you know, only focusing on the things that do serve our highest good. All right. In the fire position and how others might view you, it seems that despite any sort of internal rumination that you might be kind of experiencing, that from the outwardly perspective, people see you as capable and grounded and a person who is happy to walk to the beat of their own drum and is actually building a life of abundance for themselves in doing so. And I think that that, you know, again, can speak to how sometimes like our mental thoughts and patterns can be so much more severe than how we're perceived like on the outside, and in truth how we are actually doing. And so I think it's a timely reminder to not let rumination go for too long, and to create, if you need to, like physical and energetic like full stops, so that you can change up the energy and go outside, go for a walk, go to the gym, do whatever it is that you need to do, so that that mental rumination kind of comes to an end. And you know, you'll find after 30 minutes of exercise, like you don't go back there unless there's something that's really like pressing and bothering you. On the be open to receiving side, you've got the Page of Wands in the upright, and so this is essentially a call for being open to curiosity and creative energy, and things that kind of light your inner fire. So think about what helps for me is like thinking about the things that got me excited and got me engaged as like a kid. Like, what did I enjoy doing? Because I think they can often speak to sort of like our inherent interests or curiosities, and those sorts of things, especially in play, really fuel our kind of energetic system. They help get the root and sacral chakras kind of like firing, and once we've got those lower energy centers firing, then we're able to kind of flow upwards and connect to spirit with much more clarity and ease. So yeah, be open to receiving, or perhaps even participating in activities that spark your inner creativity and get your inner child excited. On the active side, we've got the Seven of Swords. And so the Seven of Swords can speak to, I guess, deception or underhandedness, or on a more, I guess, less kind of insidious way. It can speak to using discernment around revealing details of, you know, who we are to people who are sort of like unproven or who might be strangers. And I think, you know, given this spread and what we've seen so far, I'm leaning more towards that. It's kind of saying tread with care around who you share intimate details about yourself with, because not everyone is worthy of knowing those intimate details, and not everyone can be trusted in terms of hearing stories or being told about like our, you know, challenges or trials and tribulations, or it might even be like childhood trauma. Some people aren't well equipped to respond to that in a way that's going to be validating and empowering for us. And I think, you know, sometimes we have a bad day at work, or we come across like a situation that really like triggers us, and we'll tell our partner about it, or we'll tell a friend about it, and they'll like jump into like telling us what we should do, or they'll you know, say something well-meaning like, oh, I'm sorry, that sounds really terrible, but you know, you'll get over it. Or you know, it's just, you know, I'm sure they didn't mean it that way. And like hearing statements like that can be really destabilizing for us, because we don't want someone to kind of placate us, or we don't want them to kind of like step in and feel like they need to resolve it for us. A lot of the time we just want someone to like sit next to us and go, yeah, that really sucks. And so we can help reduce that by knowing like which of our friends are really good at receiving us in an emotionally kind of mature way, and then we also know which friends are good at strategizing, and so you pick and choose who you go to when, based on what you need. And by doing that, you're going to get the responses that validate where you're at, and also help you get what you need in order to serve your higher good. All right, in the soul position, and what's in your heart right now, we've got the Five of Cups in reverse. And so I get the sense that you've been through something really hard, Aquarius, and that's coming to an end now. There's been perhaps a a period of grieving that has left you feeling a little bit in your feels, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, we could all do with being in our feels a little bit more, but it's particularly hard when it's grief, because society doesn't deal well with like difficult emotions, particularly like grief, and there's almost like a reticence to kind of like be with people when they are grieving. And so if you have been grieving, I'm with you here in it, and I'm sure that there are others in your life who, even if they don't know how to say it, they're thinking about you. And the positive of having this card in the reverse in this position, it shows that your heart is now also ready to move on. With grief, the pain never truly goes away completely, but it does shift and it transforms. And just remember that grief is the sign of love that was profound and real, that has changed or gone, but it never truly leaves us. And so especially as it relates to like, the passing of loved ones, like, know that they're still with you and guiding you, and in your mind you can have a conversation with them and almost know exactly what they would say, kind of word for word, especially if it was parents. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'll give a quick summary in terms of the tendency or the compulsion to only trust in what can be seen, touched, tasted, or felt is understandable, particularly when we have had grief. But there is a side of us all that's more spiritual, and it is more soft, and sometimes we need to go to war for it. Not war in the literal sense, but we need to be prepared to protect that boundary, and that's where our power comes from. And once we have that power, by clearing our head of rumination, we can live a prosperous, abundant, and wholly satisfying life that promises a legacy not just for us, but for our family and friends and those who are most dear to us. So that's it for September, Aquarius. I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to check out your moon and rising signs as well, and I will see you back here next month. Well, that's all I've got for you today, so let that settle and rest and relax through it. Not everything needs to be understood at once. All of the cards that were used today, the Artemis Tarot and Artemis Oracle cards, were designed and created by me. You can find them on my website at www.artemispalimpsest.com. That link's below in the description. And on the site, you can explore the 44 Divine Masculine Archetype profiles that comprise the deck, as well as find links to buy them. So do inquire about a one-on-one personal reading if you'd like to go deeper. And also keep an eye out for videos starting this week. I'll be doing one deep dive archetype video each week, where I'll explore the symbolism, art, and creative process behind developing these. If this reading resonated, please like, comment, subscribe, or share it with someone who might need it. It really helps this work find the people it's meant to serve. This is Artemis Oracle and Tarot. Divine what can't be seen by day, and behold with new perspective that which stalked in the night. I will see you back here next month. You've been watching Artemis Oracle and Tarot, a sacred space for healing for those on the moonlit path. Join us here on YouTube for monthly tarot readings by astrology sign and deep dives into the imagery and symbolism used in the making of our unique Artemis Oracle and Tarot decks. If having a space to work through the unpleasant but necessary parts of adulting sounds good to you, like and subscribe here on YouTube and follow us on Instagram so you never miss a beat. All links are in the description below.